Our topic here is toolbar buttons. So let us understand toolbars. So you might have used PPTs, is it? So in PPT you might have seen a menu bar. Is it? Menu bar consists of file, home, insert, design, transitions, animations, all this, slideshow. And below the menu bar you might have another graphical representations which are called toolbars. Is it? So this is example for one particular example for a particular application. You have different kinds of applications. Okay, so there will be toolbars as well. Okay, so here toolbars are compilations of commands, actions, or functions, usually graphical in structure, but sometimes textual, grouped together for speedy access. So these toolbars are actually the commands, and you can perform certain actions, and these can be represented either in a graphical manner or you can represent it in a textual format. Toolbar button guidelines include the following. So there are certain guidelines that has to be followed while designing the toolbar. So let us understand what is the usage of toolbar button. It's usually it's going to provide easy and fast access to the most frequently used commands or options across multiple screens. So most frequently used commands, whatever you want to uh, use, are being placed in the toolbar. Okay, so here might be you are frequently using, maybe you are going to create new slides, is it, in PPT, or creating a table or inserting a picture. So these may be the different uh, commands you'll be using frequently, so that's why they are being placed on the toolbar. Okay, so and also to invoke a sub application also you can have this kind of toolbar buttons. And another usage is to use in place of certain menu items. So instead of going for menu items, you can directly go and invoke the toolbar buttons. And next we have structure, uh, images, how you have to provide the structure, that is uh, in this case how you are going to provide the, or how you are going to design this particular toolbar. Okay, provide buttons of equal size. All the buttons should be of equal size. Create a meaningful and unique icon. So your icons, whatever you have for the toolbar, should be unique. And design them using icon design guidelines. So you have separate icon design guidelines that has to be followed here again to design the icon. And center the image within the button. Okay, if your button is being placed, okay, you have to label it and you have to center the image within that button. Okay, it should not be very side, or okay, left side or right side. It should be very in center. Okay, give the button a raised up appearance. Yes, visually it should be able to looked by a particular user. So that's why we have to provide a raised appearance there. Ensure that toolbar images are discernible from web page graphical images. So there should be a difference between these kind of toolbar images what you are going to use. Next we have text. Create a meaningful label adhering to label guidelines for command buttons. Again, you have, while labeling the toolbars, okay, with certain names, for example here table or new slide. So these are the labels that you are given. Okay, you have to follow certain label guidelines in this case. Okay, label guidelines are different, so that have to be followed while creating the labels for these toolbar buttons also. Create toolbar buttons of equal size following the size guidelines recently described. Consistency. Use the same icon throughout an application and between the applications. So your icon should be same throughout your application and also between applications. So suppose you have think that you have been opened with two different PPTs and you are going to close it again and again. So again after closing, again if you are opening the same PPT, it has to be the icons should be presented in the same location. Okay, you should not change the location. So that's what we have here. Consistency should be maintained when the icons are being presented on the screen. Let us understand the size of these toolbar buttons. It should be 24 pixels in width and 22 pixels in height. Okay, so what is the width of the button and height of the button they have given, including the border. And the button size can be, for larger buttons you can have the 32 width by 30 width height pixel. Okay, so the larger buttons can be used on high resolution displays. So if you are using the high resolution displays, okay, so sometimes you'll be having in laptop high resolution displays. In those you can have 32 by 30 pixel width and height. Okay, and labels, what is the size of the label? 16 by 16 pixels is the size of the label whatever you are going to write here. Okay, it is 16 by 16, or you can have 14 by 24 pixels for labels. And default, what is the size of the default button? Provides a smaller size as the default size with the user option to change it. Next we have image. Center the image in the button. Organization. Order the buttons based on common and customary grouping schemes. So now you have to organize the buttons. Okay, so maybe in home screen you will be having different buttons. In insert, see for example here, insert, you have got certain buttons. Again design, if you're going, you have got different buttons. So there you have to group them, okay, according to common and customary grouping schemes. For buttons ordered left to right, place those most frequently used actions to the left. So as I said in earlier sessions, the most frequently used actions and commands will be always placed in the top left corner of your screen, okay, or your window. So same ordering has to be followed here. For buttons ordered left to right, place those the most frequently used actions to the left of the screen. And for buttons ordered top to bottom, place those most frequently used actions to the top. So if you are going to follow top down buttons or ordering, okay, you have to place the buttons which are having much importance, you have to place it in the top of the screen. And then keep related buttons grouped together. So some buttons which will be related, maybe you have in PPT, or if you are using Word, you will be having related buttons like paste, copy, okay, so print. See, these were like related buttons, you have to place it or group it together. Okay, cut, paste, copy, all those. You have relations between the buttons. That kind of buttons has to be placed or grouped together. And next we have separate potentially destructive buttons from the frequently chosen selections. So what is destructive buttons? Like closing the windows, like this. Certain buttons will be having closing the window or minimizing the window. This has to be actually placed to the right portion of the window or your screen. Okay, these are destructive buttons. You have to place it in the different location, so that the frequently, it should not be placed between the frequently used buttons. You should place the destructive buttons away from the frequently used actions or buttons. Permit user reconfiguration of button organization. So you have to give the permission for reorganizing the or reconfiguration of the button organization. So let us understand about the location of the toolbars. Position main features and functions bar horizontally across top of the window just below the menu bar. So as I said, if you consider here the PPT application, you have the menu bar initially. Is it at the top you have menu bar. So below the menu bar you can horizontally keep this toolbar. Okay, toolbar buttons can be kept below the menu bar. Okay, next position the subtask and sub features bars along the sides of the window. So you have a bigger window. Think that you have a very large window and you can keep these subtask and sub features bars along the sides. Okay, maybe left side or right side of the window. You have certain subtasks. Subtask tasks can be or sub features can be kept along the right side or left side of the window. Permit the location of the bar to be changed by the user. So you have to give the permission for the user to change the location of the toolbar. And next, permit display of the bar to be turned on or off by the user. Okay, you can turn off or turn on the toolbar. Okay, you have to give that is permitting means if you are a user interface designer, you have to permit the display of the bar to be turned on or off by the user. Also provide access through standard menus. And that means you have to there should be a two ways to provide the action. Okay, one is you have to go to the menu and then you can access the toolbar button, or you can directly invoke the particular action without going into the menu. Okay, so two-way action should be there. So provide access through standard menus as well. Next we have active items. Make only currently available toolbar items available. Next, temporarily not available items may be displayed grayed out. Okay, so if you are not able to, if you don't want to show certain items or buttons, you can gray out the button. Okay, temporarily you can gray out the buttons. And next, customization. Permit toolbars to be turned off by the user. So customization has to be provided for the user to permit the toolbars to be turned off, and also allow the customization of toolbars provided default however. So you have to provide one is customization has to be provided for the user, and you have to also have the default actions that has to be placed on the toolbar buttons. Keyboard equivalents and accelerators. So let us see what are these equivalents. Keyboard equivalents means see, you can invoke, if you are not using the pointing device, you can invoke the action or any button through your keyboard. Is it? So that is a shortcut way you have. So assign keyboard equivalents to facilitate keyboard selection and maintain the same mnemonic on all identical buttons on all the screens. Okay, so you have to you can provide keyboard equivalents. Then you also so mnemonic is in the sense I say here. Suppose if you are for example you have apply button. Okay, where in a apply button we consider A as a very capital letter. You have first letter as A, so that is considered as a mnemonic. Is it? So using a certain function key or any key along with this A, you can invoke the action. Is it? Invoke particular action. Similarly, you have accelerators. Okay, you have understood what is a keyboard accelerator. Already I have said in previous sessions. Keyboard accelerator is being used to facilitate the keyboard selection. So like Control V, Control C, Control P, all these are keyboard accelerators. They are also a shortcut way to invoke the actions. Next we have button activation. See here you have pointing and activation. Button activation means, see, whenever you are going to place your cursor pointer on the button, it has to show that it's being activated. Means there should be certain change in color. Okay, it should be changing the color to show that it's been identified by the system. Is it? So that's why we have a pointing device. We connect a pointing device and we are going to highlight the button in some visually distinctive manner when the pointer is resting on it and the button is available for selection. And next, how to activate it. Call attention to the button in another visually distinctive manner when it is being activated or pressed. So how do you activate it? Activation means you have to double click. So if, for example, if you are using a mouse, you are going to double click and you are going to activate the button. Is it? Or through keyboard also you can do it. You have to place the you have to go to the particular button and you have to just give the enter key. So that's what you are going to activate the button using the keyboard action. Operable controls. So we have certain operable controls like tabs, slider, date picker, tree views and scroll bars. So let us understand about tabs. Okay, so here they have shown one example, that is in the Microsoft Windows screen you have got tabs. See here it's showing it is as accessibility properties. So there is a window that is being opened and you have got here keyboard, sound, display, mouse, general. Okay, so you cannot show all the information of keyboard properties or sound properties, display property or mouse property at a time. Okay, so then what you have to do, you have to go for tabs. See here it's one current tab here is being used here is keyboard tab, and next we have sound, display. So these are different tabs. So you know what do you mean by tab. So when you click on this tab you will be going to get a property of keyboard, and then you can select or do certain settings over here. Okay, so here what is the description, let us see. It's a window containing tabbed dividers that create pages or sections. So it's a window, you have a window that is going to divide. Okay, you are going to divide certain information and you are going to create number of pages and sections, and navigation is permitted between the pages or sections. So you can go to this tab or the next tab. So navigation is permitted to between the tabs or the pages or sections, you can. Similarly, here they have placed it horizontally. Okay, you can place it in vertical manner also. These tabs may be created in vertical manner. Now let us see what is the purpose. It is used to present information that can be logically organized into pages or sections within the same window. Okay, so if you want to show information, okay, which is logically organized, you can divide it into pages and or sections within the same window. So now this is one particular window. Is it accessibility property is a one window that is being currently opened, and within this window you are going to create different logical pages. Okay, one is keyboard, sound, display, mouse, general. So it's different pages you want to you have and you want to display it. Is it? But at a time you can only present one single you can present one single page or section, is it? So what are the advantages of having these kind of tabs? It resembles their paper-based cousins. So similar, like you're going to turn the pages in your book. Same way you can have it is going to mimic your what is, you can say, the paper itself. Once you're going to first page, second page, third page, like this. Okay, so it's resembling your paper based cousins, and also visually it is distinctive. Okay, you can once look into keyboard tab, next to sound tab, next to display tab, like this. Okay, you can go on looking into different informations. It is effectively organize the repetitive and related information. What are the disadvantages of tabs? It's visually complex. It's the disadvantage, one of the disadvantage of tab. Next we have how you have to use this kind of, or you have to implement these tabs. You have to present discrete, logically structured related information, then only you can go for tabs. So suppose if you want to uh, show the information which is discrete, okay, which are very separate, or logically it's separated pages, if you want to display, then you can go for tabs. And to present the setting choices that can be applied to an object, you can go for tabs. And when the short tab label can meaningfully describe the tab contents, okay, then also you can go use the tab. And when the order of information varies, then also the tabs might be in use. Guidelines to use the tabs are following. So let us understand the guidelines for using this kind of tabs, or how you can create the tabs. Okay, let us look into that. Sections and pages. Place the related information within the page or section. Okay, and order them meaningfully. So you have to place it in order. This tabs also has to be placed in order, and arrange the pages so they appear to go deeper, left to right and top to bottom. Okay, so you can arrange the pages, either you can keep it from left to right, or um, top to bottom way also you can keep these tabs. Next we are going to provide the pages of equal size. So if you see here, the keyboard tab is being pressed. Okay, it displays one page. This same size page size is being applied for sound, as well as display, as well as mouse and general tab. Okay, so you have to maintain the same size for all the tabs or pages or sections, you can say. Next we have location, size and labels. Place the tabs at the top of the page or section. Where you have to place these tabs? You have to place it in the top of the page. Okay, so that is what we have in our example. We have placed it on the top of the page or section. So you can see here where we have placed it. Is it? Next, provide fixed width tabs for pages or sections of related information. So all the tabs, whatever you are going to create, it should have a fixed size or fixed width. Provide textual labels to understand for the user. He has to understand what action he's going to do. So you have to represent all the tabs with the textual labels. Use the system fonts. Similar fonts has to be used, and keep the information brief and same general length. Nouns are better to be used than verbs. And the labels, when you are going to place, it should be nouns rather than using verbs. It should be nouns, and also you can use the mixed case words. and you have to capitalize the first significant word. Okay, if it's a keyboard, K has to be capitalized, and center the labels within the tabs. Again, you have to maintain the center. All the labels should be centered, and restrict the tabs to only one row. So you cannot show this tab in two rows. It should be maintained in one single row. Okay, it should be a one single row. Arrange the tabs so that they appear to go deeper, left to right or top to bottom. So here we have left to right way of representation of the tab. Okay, similarly you can have top to bottom also. You can place the tabs. Command buttons, if they affect, so the command buttons you also have in case of tabs, you have command buttons. If they affect only the page or section, locate the buttons on the page or section. And if they affect the entire tabbed control, locate the buttons outside the tabbed pages. So you can allow command buttons within this tabs, okay, or pages. So whenever you click the tab, it will open up a page, is it? So if command, you can place the command buttons within these pages. Okay, suppose if it affects the page what you are going to display, better to keep your tab button outside the page itself if it affects the complete page. Or else you can, if the command button is not that troubling you, okay, you can place it within the page. So if they affect only the page or section, locate the buttons on the page or section. Okay, only if it's affecting your page or section, you can locate it within the page or section. If they affect the entire tabbed control, okay, entirely if it is going to control it, then you have to better to place the tab outside the window. Next we have slider. Sliders you might have seen while using PPTs also. Below the screen you might have observed the slider to zoom in and zoom out the screen. Is it? Similarly here there is one example showing the slider button. So as you have an arm here, and as you slide this arm on this horizontal bar, it's going to change certain values on the screen. So what is the description of a slider? A scale exhibiting decrease of quality on a continuum is called a slider, and it includes the following: a shaft or bar. A shaft or bar, you have a shaft here, and or you can call it as a bar. Okay, a rectangular structure you have now, that you call it as a shaft. A range of values with appropriate labels you can place on the shaft here itself. Okay, range of values here they have given 0 to 120. That is a range of values they have given for this particular slider. An arm indicating relative setting through its location on the shaft. So you have an arm here. Similarly, you may have seen a vertical line like structure in zoom in and zoom out option in case of PPT. Is it? So that's what we have here. You have an arm. Okay, arm indicating the relative setting through its location on the shaft. Optionally, a pair of buttons to permit incremental movement of the slider arm is being provided. So you may have buttons at the side of the slider. So here they have provided buttons. It's optional. There no need of having this kind of buttons in every application. It's optional. Okay. Optionally, a text box for typing or displaying an exact value also can be permitted here. So here you can see that text box is present. You can enter exact value within this particular text box. Okay, so this is also again optional. If it's not needed, you no need of providing this kind of text box. And one more optional, this is you have a detent position for special values. Okay, so there is certain exact positions. Maybe you may have like in zoom in and zoom out, you have 100. We are going to keep 100 as a very special value you are going to have. Is it 100 means it's you can say that the window is visible to all kind of users. So that is one special value we have given. So same way for other applications also you can have a date and position for special values. Okay, so all these are optional, but so 3 points are optional. Okay, that is one is buttons, providing text box, and date and position for special value is also optional thing in case of sliders. And next we have it, the slider may be oriented vertically or horizontally. You can provide the a slider in a horizontal manner or in the vertical manner. And next, how you are going to select this slider? You can select the slider by using the mouse. Okay, you can drag the slider across the scale until the desired value is reached, and also point out at the buttons at one end of the scale by clicking to change the values. And keying a value in associated text box is also allowed. So if there is a text box, you can directly enter the value and you can move the arm to the desired position, or else what you have to do, you have to use your mouse to drag the arm on this particular shaft. And next, what is the purpose of the slider? To make a setting when a continuous qualitative adjustment is acceptable, it is useful to see the current value relative to the range of possible values. Okay, next we have what are the advantages of slider. The spatial representation of relative setting. So you can see that there is a spatial representation. So instead of without knowing this kind of what you can say here is, if you have a shaft and if you are going to move the arm on a particular position on the screen, okay, you can exactly know whether you are going to change the value or you are not going to change the value. So this can be visualized by the user. Okay, so spatial representation of relative settings can be observed easily if you are having this kind of slider. Okay, next, it's visually distinctive. So user will be able to see what changes he is going to do to the window or any application using this slider. So that is the advantages. Next we have disadvantages of slider. Not these sliders are not as precise as alphanumeric indication, because see, if you are seeing here, you are going to just move the arm to on the shaft. Okay, so the values will be increasing and decreasing, but it's not as precise as that alphanumeric indication, because you see, suppose if you want to exactly use the value 71, for example 71, if you want to show on the slider, it may be difficult for the user to exactly place the arm on that particular value, that is 71. Okay, but if you are entering through the text box, what happens, the arm automatically will be placed on the value 71. Is it? So it's the disadvantage of the slider is, it's not the exact value cannot be placed in this kind of sliders. Okay, it may cause certain difficulties for the user to place exact values. Okay, approximately he may be keeping here. It is maybe he wants the value around 70, think that he may place the arm in and around the 70 value, but exact values cannot be shown on the sliders, is it? Next, it consumes the screen space. To include this slider, it has to have certain space on the window, is it? If there is no space, there is a little space thing that, then you cannot place these kind of sliders on the screen. And another disadvantage is it's usually more complex than other controls. So let us say understand about the proper usage of this kind of sliders. These sliders are used to set an attribute, and it's also used for mutually exclusive choices. When an object has limited range of possible settings, we are going to use this kind of slider. When the range of values is continuous also, then so we can use this kind of sliders. So here you can observe that 0 to 120 you have the range of values, and it's all continuous. It's not discrete value, it's a continuous value. So we can use this kind of sliders in this case. And when graduations are relatively fine, then also you can go use for this slider. And when the choices can increase or decrease in some well-known, predictable and easily understood way, we can use this kind of sliders. When a spatial representation enhances comprehension and interpretation, and when the slider provides sufficient accuracy, then these kind of sliders will be in use. Now let us see the guidelines for creating the slider. First you have captions and labels. Captions and labels can be placed on the slider. Sometimes it may not be visible for you. When you just click on the icon, then it may be showing the caption and label, or sometimes it may be directly showing the slider itself. Okay, but if you are providing the caption or the label, provide a meaningful, clear and consistent captions. Display them using mixed case letters, and also position the caption to the left of the box. Okay. Alternately, it can be positioned left justified above the slider. Okay, so above the slider also you can keep this kind of labels or captions. Labels. This is for captions. And the next one we have labels. Provide meaningful and descriptive labels to aid in interpreting the scale. So labels also can be provided for the slider. And next we have scale. Show a complete range of choices. Scale, when you are providing a scale, so you have here 0 to 120 values. Okay, so there is a range of values that is being provided on the scale, and mark low, intermediate and high ends of the scale. That has to be marked. So lower value 0, higher value 120, or intermediate value 60. Okay, this can be shown on the screen or scale. Okay, and next we have provide scale interval markings where possible. Certain markings you may have 0 to 10, 10 to 20. So this is an interval. 0 to 10 is an interval. So this marking has to be provided. And next, provide consistent increments. So what is the increment here? We are given 0, 10. Then again 10 plus 10, 20. 20 plus 10, 30. Like this. Increments you have to give. Consistent increments it should be. Permit the user to change the units of measure. So suppose it's showing in temperature. Maybe you have here actually Fahrenheit is being shown. Celsius if you want to show, then you can change it. Okay, that has to be permitted for the user. Okay, user interface designer has to permit to change the units as well. If the precise value of quantity represented is important, display the value set in a adjacent text box. Okay, so you have to provide text box. Suppose if you want to provide the user wants to provide the precise value, exact value, can say here. Next, slider arm. If the user cannot change the value shown in the slider, do not display a slider arm. Okay, so slider arm is this arm. Okay, you may have a line like structure on the slider. Okay, that's the arm you are going to have. Next, we have slider buttons. Slider buttons provide the slider buttons to permit movement by smallest increments. So you can provide the buttons along with slider. Okay, so suppose if you want to show smaller increments, you can have this kind of, you can use the user can use the buttons. Okay, maybe 0, then 1, 2, 3, 4, like this small increments. If you want to do, then you can use the buttons. If the user cannot change the value shown in the slider, do not display the slider buttons. So these are slider buttons you are going to have here, but it's optional. Sometimes you may not be provided with the slider buttons. And next we have detents. What is actually this kind of detents? So mechanical terms, if you are saying detents are some of, so if you are having a door to a house, okay, you may have a lock like structure, okay, which stops the door, okay, when there is wind. Okay, that's a detent. Similarly, here also we have a detent. In slider bar also we have a detent. Provide detents to set values that have special meaning. Okay, certain values you may be setting there which has got importance in the application. Maybe here, for example, in this case it is a temperature, showing the application is showing the temperature Fahrenheit. Okay, you can show 100 as a detent value, or which is having the special value. Okay, 100 degree, or you can say our room temperature, that has got a special meaning. So that detent is being set on the slider bar. Okay, it's what you have to do is permit the user to change the detent values based on his needs. He can change detent values. Proportions. To indicate the proportion of a value being displayed, fill the slider shaft in some visually distinctive way. Fill the horizontal sliders from left to right. So almost we always use the left to right method for filling the sliders. Fill the vertical sliders from bottom to top. Okay, that is you like you have in what you can say here in BP machines. How you are going to do? You will be having lower value at the bottom. Is it 0 to some value? So you move from bottom to top in that case. So slider values also has to be placed in that same manner. In case of horizontal sliders, we place it from left to right. Date picker. So you might have used these kinds of date pickers in your mobiles or in PCs or laptops, any device you have date pickers. So this description, let's see the description. A drop down list box that displays a month calendar in the drop down list box. The displayed month can be changed through pressing command buttons with left to right pointing arrows. So here also we in the date picker also we have some buttons that's being placed. So you can see here one button, the next button is being placed here, and you have buttons here. Okay, so this is actually currently showing 1 month calendar. Okay, left arrow moves backward through the monthly calendar and right arrow moves monthly to the forward. Monthly calendar will be forwarded. If it's now showing, currently it's showing January, Suppose if you click this button, it will go to February like this. The date for the list box can be selected from the drop down calendar. Okay, so date can be picked based on your choice. Okay, any date you can select. What is the purpose? To select a date for inscribing in a drop down list box. What is the purpose of the date picker? Is to select a date. Advantages is it provides a representation of physical calendar in a meaningful entity. The calendar listing is ordered in a predictable way. It's visually distinctive. All calendars are visually distinctive. And disadvantages is it requires an extra step to display the calendar. So you might have to go to a certain area on the screen to display the current calendar. Okay, directly it may not show the calendar on your display. So it requires an extra step. When it's displayed, all the month choices are not visible and requiring a form of scrolling to access the desired choices. So suppose if you want to access September month, then you have to go on clicking the button. Okay, directly you cannot access the particular button. Suppose if you want to change the year, then you have to again you may have to do certain task to change the year in this case. Is it? So that is one of the disadvantage, or else it is very helpful. Next, proper usage. To select and display a single date in close monthly proximity to default month presented on the drop-down list box. Next is we have tree view. Description is a list box control that displays a set of objects that as an indented outline. So here you can see an tree view control, and it's actually a screenshot of a Windows application. See, you have a desktop, and under that you have my documents, my computer, all this. So if you see here, the first main folder, you have desktop, and then inside that you have my documents. Again, inside the my documents you have image, music, pictures as sub folders. See, there is a tree-like structure in this kind of control, is it? So this is what we want to say: a list of box control that displays a set of objects as an indented outline based on the object's logical hierarchical relationship. So there is a hierarchical relationship between the objects here. It includes optionally buttons that expand and collapse the outline. So you have a plus mark and a minus mark, to expand and collapse the folders. Is it? Button inscribed with the plus expands the outline. So you have certain buttons with plus mark that expands the outline, and certain buttons with minus sign that collapses the outline. Next, elements that can optionally be displayed are icons, graphics such as checkbox, lines, also to lines to illustrate the hierarchical relationships. So the tree view can be also seen in icons. In icons also can be represented in case of tree view, and sometimes graphics also represented, and you may have check boxes. Check boxes in the sense you can mark any tick mark you can do. So then you have lines to illustrate hierarchical relationship. That is, using the lines also we might be showing the hierarchical relationship. Next, the purpose and the proper usage. To display a set of objects as an indented outline to illustrate their logical hierarchical relationship, we use this kind of tree view. Next we have scroll bars. So all of you have used scroll bars, and it has got buttons like this above, an arrow mark like above and below, and you have a bar, this man. Okay, so we can slide this bar on this scroll bar. Okay, so description is an elongated rectangular container consisting of scroll area, a slider box or elevator inside, and it has arrows or anchors on either end. So you can see arrow mark or anchor like structure on the either of the ends of the scroll bar. Available if needed in primary and secondary windows, some controls and web pages. And maybe it's oriented vertically or horizontally at the bottom window or page edge. So you can see this kind of scroll bars that is being placed horizontally on the window or vertically at the side of the window. What is the purpose? To find and view the information that takes more space than allotted display space. So suppose if you are using a website or your any applications, suppose if you want to view the information completely, okay, all the pages if you want to see, then you might use this kind of scroll bars to view the information that is hidden on the screen. Next, advantages are it permits viewing the data of unlimited size. So suppose if your pages no, numerous pages, if you have maybe 100 pages, okay, you can view it by scrolling the uh, scroll button. Next, disadvantages are it consumes screen space and can be cumbersome to operate. Okay, sometimes if you have about 1,000 pages, it may be difficult to use this scroll bar. Okay, so it's cumbersome to operate it, and also it occupies the screen space. Certain area around on the screen will be occupied with by this scroll bar. So that is one of the disadvantage. What is the proper use? When more information is available, then you have to go for this kind of scroll bar. And next, do not use to set the values. Do not use this kind of scroll bars to set any values. Maybe 100 page, you have 1,000 pages and you want to set a value, think that, okay, at 100 page is a set value you are saying, okay, 100 page is a set value. So such kind of setting the values are not possible in case of scroll bars, okay, whereas in your previous kind, that slider bars, you will be having certain values that are already set. Hmm? Scroll bar design guidelines. General general thing you have, that is guideline. It provides a scroll bar when invisible information must be seen. Okay, general instruction it is when you have to provide the scroll bar is to show the information. And also scroll area or container, there is certain guidelines for scroll area and container. To indicate the scrolling is available, a scroll area or container should be provided. So you have to have a container like structure. See here the scroll bar you have, okay, you can see that it's like a container like structure you have to indicate the scrolling, is it? So or else viewers will not be able to see whether you are going to scroll the button or not. Okay, so you should have a container like structure to move the scroll bar, and construct it of a field in a bar displayed in a technique that visually contracts with the window and screen body background. So it has to contract. So if you are showing this scroll bar, here they have shown in gray color, okay, it is contracting with the color, that is background color is white. Okay, so color has to be also thought of while showing this kind of scroll bars. And scroll slider box or handle, to indicate the location and amount of information that's being viewed, provide a slider box or handle. Okay, that's this one. This is a you have a slider box, that is to, this is a slider box, okay, to indicate the location where exactly you are, in which page you are. So to show that you have a slider box, like, or you can it as handle. It's constructed in a movable and sizable open area of the scroll area, displayed in a technique that contracts with the scroll area. By its position, the spatially indicate the relative location in the file of the information being viewed. By its size, indicate proportionately the percentage of available information in the file is being used. Okay. Now let's talk about scroll direction and arrows to indicate the direction. So now you have directions here, one above direction and lower direction you have. To indicate the direction in which scrolling may be performed, directional arrows should be provided. Construct them as small arrows in small boxes with backgrounds that contract with the small area. Selection. When the slider box or handle has been selected, so when you are going to select this slider box, we say this is the slider box, or handle we call it as. If it has been selected, highlight it in some visually distinctive way. Location. Position the vertical scroll bar to the right of the window and position the horizontal scroll bar to the bottom of the window. So already you know where these scroll bars will be placed. It may be placed right side of the window or horizontally at the lower side of the window. And what should be size? The vertical scroll bar should be height of the scrollable portion of the window body, and horizontal scroll bar should be at least 1/2 of the width of the scrollable portion of the window. So that means vertical, if you are having the scroll bar, okay, it should show the complete, it should be displayed on the complete area on the right side of the screen. Okay, almost it should cover the complete page. And if it's a scrolling bar, then 1/2, okay, at least half portion of the screen has to be viewed while using this lower scroll bar buttons. And next we have current state indication. Whenever the window's size or position of the information changes, the scroll bar components must also change, reflecting the current state. Include the scroll bars in all